Yeah. It's all on notes, I've done to. I don't think it's stuff done. I took the old shingle and about a year later, sort of things say, we decided that was. There you go, I'm great. But you go back and forth, to be a trailblazer, two shot. It's the first. Oh, I haven't passed it. Meanwhile, I was working in the hospital.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, originally star and then on that. As a kid, I lived with my side. The rule is, you don't remember when you got your last.
No, that's what I was talking about. I just came back on coach. Please. When I get away.
You should do dark side of a horse show.
That's what it is.
Like you can't, these teams parks in cities, from that's basically, you know.
Baby, at least one of them, you know, there's some
This year. Obviously, sterilizing for the food. That'd be fine. I'm really appreciating it.
My problem is.
You gonna yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're picking up a little competition.
Yeah, it's amazing. This thing picks up. Yeah, it's pretty wild. You have conversations in the back there. Just gotta be watching out who we're talking about.
I get it.
My sound stopped. Is anyone else talking? Leaving.
Yeah, I just turned the volume back on. I turned it off to not catch the sensitive stuff you guys were talking about a little bit ago. So it wouldn't be broadcast on YouTube with all your secrets, stuff like that. So
Conspiracy theories.
there it is. And now the BSAS has now made list, right? All right, so we're a little after 7:30. We'll go ahead and get started. Looks like we've got 5-ish people on Zoom right now. Hopefully people will start showing up a little bit more. But we got a really good crowd here. So first off, welcome everybody. I know I just did the sign-in sheet and saw that there are a few guests here. So welcome to those people visiting, or if this is your first meeting. Glad to have you. I'm Tom Beckerman, current president here. And so, you know, this is a monthly adventure for us. So today we're gonna chat a little bit about some of the upcoming outreach opportunities we had, talk about the club itself, and then Bud is going to give us a talk on the upcoming annular eclipse that's coming up next month. So a couple cool things going on. I don't know how well you can see it over there. It's an image from Bud in the sun today. So pretty cool. We got some good activity going, which is always exciting, especially if you're planning on looking at the sun for an eclipse kind of thing. So always gives us something else to look at. All right. All right, so we'll go and get things started. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look through the eclipse that we put out. I think came in last week. Did anybody get a chance to look at the minutes? And if so, anybody have any questions about last month's meeting or the member meeting or the board meeting minutes from earlier, a couple weeks ago? All right. Keith doesn't appear to be here today. I took a look at our numbers. We're up to 159 members. So growing strong, a few more than last month. So every week, every month, we're getting a few more members, which is always exciting. Theo, can we get treasurer's report?
Yep. We have a little bit in the bank. We have $7,696.16 as a total bank balance. We also have $544.29 in PayPal. I did order a pile of solar glasses. That was most of the money I spent this month. So we will have, not in time for the annual, but for April, we'll have 10,000 pairs that are branded. You look at that, I evaporated over 100,000 pairs in Bowling Green. So anyway, what we did last time was we basically gave, I think, 2 free pairs to every BSAS member. I think members could buy them for $1 a piece, and then we sold them to anybody else for $2 a piece. They're costing us about 38 cents a piece. So you make money on this deal, and you don't have to sell too many to make back your initial investment. So anyhow, there has not yet been an eclipse for which too many glasses were made. So people will be looking for them. So we've got them. So if you have an office that needs some, come April, we'll have them. Of course, all of Nashville will need them because we won't be in totality. Sad. People should not be here. You should be west. But if you have friends in Missouri, Arkansas, Texas, all that, even
To them now.
Yeah. Put your order in now. So anyway, that'll be fun. They will be here by Christmas. So
You know, you'd be hard pressed to get a hotel room in Dallas right now. I can tell you that during that whole time period.
yep.
I lived in
Dave-
Cape Girardeau and it was,
Dave Quint says he has a picnic shelter at a state park in Texas. And if anybody wants to join him there,
party.
yeah, party
Yeah.
there.
Bring your own food.
So anyway, there will be some opportunities. There are some other, and really we're not super worried. I mean, if you don't need a hotel room, I mean, Texas is covered with ranches, right? And everybody's going to be selling parking spaces that they're rent. Or there will be people.
I don't care.
There are several organizations I can think of offhand that have, are taking reservations, and they have space blocked off, so there will be places to go. Okay, that's the eclipse. Otherwise, social media is as it has been. I've kind of been out of town for a little while, so thank you to folks that are posting on Facebook, because that's a good thing. So we have about 2,200 followers on Facebook and 320 on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. If X starts charging, I don't know what we want to do. I'll be gone, but I don't know what the SAS wants to do. We might just learn how to do things the old-fashioned. We did sell 4 posters last month, which is fun. And we're coming up to the Christmas season, so if anybody would like a cool hatch print poster, we still have some.
Are those the ones you're selling out of the back of your car in the Walmart parking lot?
That would be those, yep.
Comes with a nice tube that you can use what you need. Or if you need a stocking stuffer, we have eclipse glasses.
Right,
Right?
right. That's what we got.
Thank you very much. Let's see, moving on. I am also the equipment guy. I'm busy, but I am working on it, trying to keep up with some demand, which is great. I do have a few scopes. I haven't updated my Google Sheet in a while, so that is going to be my task this weekend in between kids. Apparently it's birthday party season for my daughter's class, and so I've got 3 birthday parties this weekend, so it's wild. But I'm going to Google Sheet that up and try and get an update on what's available and what isn't. But part of the perks of being a member here is that we have telescopes that we loan out for free, right? So hopefully we can keep track of the telescope, but as long as they're, as long as you're using it, feel free. This is a great way to figure out what kind of scope you like. If you don't like it, or how portable you'd like a scope to be, or how much power you'd like a scope to have. This is a good way to try out something that doesn't cost you more than a membership fee. So, we always encourage getting people out underneath the stars. If you do have a scope, let us know if you're still using it. Let us know if you have any questions with it. because sometimes getting a scope can be kind of daunting, and trying to figure out which end to look through, isn't necessarily the easiest thing. Because if you look at some of the ads, they're looking at the wrong end. So, if you're having problems visualizing or anything we can help with, just reach out to us and let us know. If you're interested in the loaner equipment, you can get a hold of us at equipment@bsasnational.com or bsasnational.com. And we can get in touch with you there, and we'll try and figure out a scope for you. Where you can find us online is bsasnashville.com. It's kind of our catchphrase there, BSAS Nashville. This is a lovely picture of our website. We've started becoming better about updating links and star parties and things like that. What I really like about this is that we have the nice clear sky chart down below. The darker it is, the better the vision. So the better opportunity it is to see nice darkish skies as we can get in Nashville. So upcoming couple days look somewhat promising. I took this literally about 2 hours ago, so haven't given it much time to change. So we're just going to stick with this. Also on here, notice the bottom link is for our hatch show print. Sorry, the arrow should have moved. But this is what Theo is selling on the back of her car. It's if you collect hatch prints, they made this specially for us.
Uh-oh.
Tom, we lost your audio.
Yeah. What happened? Aliens. That's what it is. Well.
Chip is also posting. Yeah, and so we're posting some really cool things. Here you see a view from Pickett, which is our closest dark sky site, the international dark sky affiliated park. And so it's been certified. And I don't know how well that's coming through on the image, but the skies out there are just amazing whenever you get no clouds. So it is really gorgeous. And so this is just one of the posts that are up on Facebook. We're also on Twitter at BSAS Nashville. Here you see one of the most recent posts essentially talking about the lighting, right? And, just kind of this common theme going on where as, population starts increasing more and we start building more things, the light just starts to become a pain. And I thought this was an interesting post, right? On this picture, it's put out by the Dark Sky International. On that top picture, that could be anybody's garage, but there's literally a person to the right of that building. And you can't see him until you shield the light. So the theme is that more light isn't necessarily better light. And so, I went to the site, there's a link there, and I included the link down there. It kind of tells you what you can do yourself to make sure that, you're not being crazy with your lights, make sure they're shining down, make sure they're not too bright, cover what you need, have things on motion sensors, use a softer light to keep out of the blue layers. And so there's a lot of really cool things that they have there. And there's checklists and guides and things you can do, places you can contact to get more information about all of this. And, here in Nashville, me turning out my lights probably isn't going to make too much of a difference, but it's a start, right? Just making people aware that, the sky is beautiful and other things also rely on the dark besides us. So, keep in mind that all of that's going on, all around us, even when we're not paying attention to it. Instagram, Steve has been keeping us updated with posts on there. Here you can see, star parties being posted. We have a few images. One was Theo's, one was Steve's. I think that this bottom right one was taken at our last star party out at Ron's house, if I remember right. So a couple of views of the Milky Way. Looks like that Andromeda there. Yep. I see. I'm getting there. So really cool images. So we could share these with members, and we could share these out with the the community around us and the world around us if they're looking. And so if you're a imager or astrophotographer, if you have anything cool, feel free to shoot us an email and, we can post it up and give you credit and get you some exposure. So there's some really cool things, that's going on in the night sky. And so we'd love to share your work. So if you're interested, definitely let us know. We also have the Google groups. BSAS Nashville is our group. Today I realized that I didn't have to Google groups and then go into BSAS Nashville there, because now the link on our website works where it says discussion boards and you click on it and it takes you here. So hooray, I clicked the button and it worked. I mean, it's simple to me because I didn't even realize the button was there. So it's probably been there this whole time. I just missed it. But this is a message board for members. And so if you're a member, you'll have access to it. Email us info@bsasnashville.com and we'll get you onboarded onto here. This is where we share just general bits and pieces from the community about things going on, like star parties coming up, or things like Bud posted today with his image of the sun, right? So we can share things between each other, or maybe try and figure out who's going out to the dark sky site tonight, so one person doesn't get eaten by a bear. Or if they do, we have another person to help out, right? So keep in mind, we're trying, really to build this community for us so we can all kind of interact and enjoy this hobby that we've all gotten into. We do everything through the Night Sky Network. So if you're interested in becoming a member, you first sign up through the Night Sky Network and then go to our website and there's a become a member button and go in there and there's instructions on there and you can pay through PayPal. Still take checks. Yep. Still take checks. They'll probably sit in the post office box for a minute, but we'll still take checks. So, if you're wanting to be a member, this is how we run our organization through. And the Night Sky Network has some really cool options. There's a calendar on there, and we're doing a really good job with Chip is posting events that are coming up. So this is really good, especially for private events, so that we can post them for all of you to see. And only people that are members of this get access to that calendar. So like our private member events where we can just take our scopes out and look at its stuff, and enjoy the hobby. But also we post our public star parties there too. So we can go out and share this with our wonderful community. So it's a really good site. They have a lot of information. So every week I try and put some, or every month I try and put like their new important topics up. And here we're talking about the Callisto mission to Europa, or the Clipper mission, sorry. And so here I went through and read this article, pretty cool, had some cool information on Europa. I also found out that there's this nifty little mnemonic, Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. So those are the moons from closest to furthest away. And way to remember, I eat green caterpillars. I didn't know that was a mnemonic, but apparently that is. And so now I'm like, oh, I eat green caterpillars. So now I know. So pretty cool things. Now, also with this mission and in that, there's a link to the website for this mission. And there's some cool things like sending a message in a bottle. So I've done this for like the mission that we sent to Bennu. We put my name on that, that little spaceship that they sent that way. I've signed my name on something that went to Mars, right? And so of course, naturally, I went and put my name on this because it's what I do. But apparently they're putting all these names on microchips and putting them on the Clipper. They're also putting a poem. And so that's kind of the theme of it. And you put the poem on and then they sign it. Now, I don't know who's going to read that microchip. It might be just above USB. I don't know what all it's going to be, but still, I'm on there. Now, this mission is supposed to take off 2024, so a year away, should reach there about 2030. So it'll be flying for a little bit, but still, it's pretty cool. And it's obviously gaining traction. So this was from today. This is everywhere in blue. People have signed up. So this is a country, worldwide look. And so far, 533,000 people have signed. So there's a lot of bottles and messages and stuff like that. So it's kind of this cool thing. So if you're interested, put your name on the bottle. It's pretty cool. Also on the Night Sky Network, every month they have updated night sky planners. Sometimes these are weekly where they go, hey, there's some cool things up in the sky. A couple days from now, we have our equinox. I was reading their little blurb about that, and they bring light to the fact that it isn't always dead even day versus night, but the thing that always is constant is that the sun will rise in the east and set in the west. Like it's pretty directional. So due east and due west. So it's pretty cool there. And they also have these outreach resources. So if you wanted to go to a star party and didn't know what to talk about, grab a couple facts up here and then use the people there. So it's always good to have some of these things.
This is when
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So again, some really cool things. Over this last month, I didn't get to, I was out of town for the member meeting last month. So thank you, Theo, for pitch hitting. But over the last month, we had a few things going on. Edwin Warner Park, we had a good turnout. Is that correct? There was a couple hundred. Yeah. And then on the 16th, there was a private star party, I believe at Water Valley. I don't know if that made or not because I was at Pickett that time. And so that's the last thing on here. There was a group of us that went to Pickett CCC State Park for their dark sky celebration on the 15th. So that was Friday night. We had some really good skies till about 3 a.m, which is great. I spent the last hour of clear skies hunting for a Messier object that was like 8 stars, just kind of like sitting there, like 8 stars. And I finally star hopped to him and took a picture and looked, and it literally blacked out that area. And I looked up and there were clouds. And I'm like, that's perfect, right? But I did capture some good images. I'm sure Theo got some good images out of it. And we'll start, putting those up as well. But it was really beautiful out there. If anybody can get a chance to get out to Pickett, it's gorgeous. So I always want to promote that park. Let's see, upcoming events. So I've been perusing the Google groups. Upcoming on Friday, Ron is going to host a private star party at his place again, off of the Natchez Race Parkway. We're streaming to YouTube, so I'm not going to post his address here today. But if you're wanting more information about the private star party out there, nice Bortle 4 skies. So definitely a little bit darker than here, right? So that's always a plus. But there's on the Google groups, there's a lot of information about it. And if you guys have questions, you can email us as well. On the 23rd, I believe it's our first star party at Mill Ridge. I've seen the articles about the cool park, right? Like the features for kids to play on. We're still going to work out how well it's going to work for star parties and such, but we're going to tap into a group of people that we don't really have too many star parties down towards, down past Antioch or down by Cane Ridge much. So hopefully get people interested down there. So that'll be on the 23rd. And then we have another private star party coming up on October 14th. One thing to point out is that on October 14th, we have our annular eclipse, right? And so I pulled this off of, I think, timeanddate.com, because why not? They have stuff about the solar eclipse. Yeah.
The one on Saturday, Mill Ridge Park,
Mhm.
when people arrive, I've never been there.
That is a fantastic idea. I know where you're going. We don't know yet.
Because I'm putting an invitation out there to people at work.
Okay.
They're more of a blank slate than I am.
Gotcha.
So if they show up, and they're shy.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
We have signs.
we have some signs, so
Yeah.
hopefully we'll bring the signs and start like where the first turn past the entrance, but we will be at the main park. So wherever the main park, I haven't been there myself. Gary went out there and walked the place with him and yeah. So
Yeah.
get some signage hopefully and put it out soon.
Tony went and walked it as well. Yeah,
But, and I'm full disclosure, I was out there about a year ago. It was a.
Yeah.
pasture.
I was out there too. Yeah, I went out and
There
looked.
was a table.
Yep.
You know, they call it, it's right on the county line between Milford and Ely, but they've sunk millions of dollars in it.
Oh, yeah, they have.
got food, They've got basketball courts, and they got all sorts of city lights.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
They have gone spared no expense in light standards.
yeah. So again, we're not sure how well it's gonna be, but we're gonna do the best we can. The moon's gonna sort of be up-ish, right?
Yes.
So give it a shot, right? We can look at the moon if necessary. Right? So, but I'm simple. I like looking at the moon. So hopefully, hopefully it'll be a good time and we can talk to the public about some cool things that we can see. But coming up on the 14th, we have the private star party. We also have the annular eclipse, which Bud's going to talk to us in a little bit about. And then our next meeting for members is October 18th here at 7:30. Okay. So those are things coming up on the plate. I believe this Friday, there's a Sunday, a contingent possibly going out to the Japanese Moon Festival at Cheekwood, weather permitting. So I sent a message out earlier this week about potentially doing that. So Tony, I think you're volunteering with Theo and my brain. Who else? Gary and my brain. So thank you all for doing that for us. Coming up in the night sky, just a little PDF I have, some cool things coming up. September was up last meeting, but cool things. You get the moon and Saturn kind of playing around. October coming up, of course, the annular eclipse on the 14th. The meteor showers are starting to come in, where we're going to see millions of meteors an hour, probably. And so some cool things coming up, and I'm plugging this because I found it a couple of months ago. Stellarium-web.org. Stellarium, if you don't know, is a fantastic piece of software that you can model the night sky with, and you can see what you're looking at. You can be like, oh, at this time and date, where's Venus going to be? You can find all that information. And now they've made it accessible on the web. There's a few less, perks and bells and whistles on it, but it works perfect. And so these are images I pulled off today. The one on the left is the moon and Saturn, and earlier or coming up here shortly. And then on the right is what we potentially see here at Nashville at 12:05. So this is potentially our best go at it. So again, it's a pretty cool site. Highly recommend taking advantage of it. And before I yield to Bud, I sent off and they sent me these nice nifty solar vision cards, right? And so we won't have glasses in, but if you're interested, grab one of these. These are, solar safe. And so you can just put them up in front, take a look at the sun. They also have a nice little hole for a lanyard. Thank you, Theo, where you can clip them on and, drop it as you need. So nice little cheap card. Take one, keep it in your car, take a look at it as it goes throughout the day. So
Story of the whole is that when I was working at Bowling Green, we were going to be distributing 100,000 to students. Well, you're going to have students standing around all day. What do they do with the glasses? They don't fit kids' faces. And two, they'll put them down, they'll sit on them, step on them, whatever. So we got them to punch a hole to put them on a lanyard. And they liked that idea so much that now all their card viewers come with a hole.
yeah, so it's not bad, right? Also, one of the cool things that I also like to point out is you don't need an eclipse to look at the sun, right? So you can pull these out, and if the spot's big enough, you can actually see the solar spots. So it's pretty cool. So there's a stack of them over there on the table, so feel free to grab a couple on your way out. All right, so without further ado, we're going to give the floor off to Bud, our wonderful secretary and one of the people here that keep us running. So just some brief information on the solar eclipse coming up on the 14th. It'll be partial here in Nashville. So if you do choose to look, you need some sort of protection. All right, bud. Space button or arrows advance you and send you backwards.
Okay.
Yours.
Hey, let's get started. Well,
You're good.
am I on the?
Yep, you're good. So this is what's on the screen. So here, hit the next button.
Right there?
Yep. So this is what's on the screen right
okay.
here.
Okie dokie, good. Okay. Well, we're talking about no solar retinopathy. Or how to look at the sun without burning out your eye. There's a sun from a few years ago with a nice big sunspot in the corner. But why look at the sun in the first place? The sun is the star that's nearest the Earth. It's the only star where an amateur astronomer can see any detail, and the detail is constantly changing. Solar eclipses are awe-inspiring events, but you want to be able to look at the sun more than once or twice. So don't do this to your eye. Bingo.
Is that a marshmallow or?
That's a marshmallow.
Nice.
My solar-powered marshmallow toaster.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, here's the eye in question. Let's see. What can I do? There's your cornea.
Let me
Is that visible?
tap this. Then I'll leave your pointer, and then whatever you.
Okay.
here.
Okay, good. Okay, there's your cornea, the lens, the vitreous humor. And back here's the retina. The fovea is your region where you have sharp vision. About half of your cone cells, which see detail and color, are in your fovea. And then here's how radiation from the sun affects your eye. Ultraviolet light can cause basically a sunburned cornea, which is painful. Longer wavelengths penetrate deeper into the eye and can affect the lens and causing a cataract. That's over long periods of exposure generally. So this is why when you're outside during the day, you want to have sunglasses on, which have UV 400 protection rating. Visible light and infrared light can penetrate all the way to the retina. And that can cause your photochemical injury or burning of the retina. And longer infrared won't quite penetrate to the retina, but it's absorbed by the cornea and the lens and the vitreous humor, where it can cause damage. Now, this is a retina burn that a poor woman named Nia Payne suffered back in 2017. She was watching the solar eclipse from Staten Island, New York, and unfortunately did not have safe solar glasses or other eye protection. And CNN reported that December on the injury the woman sustained. And that's the link to the article, which is really too long to look at tonight, but we'll have it available in case you want to read it. So how do you protect your eye from the sun? The first way is by indirect observation, which is not looking at the sun at all. You can project an image of the sun. Projection
doesn't require anything expensive. You don't look directly at the sun. You can show the sun to a group of people at once. But you do need to be careful if you're using eyepiece projection. Nobody tries to look through that eyepiece when you got the telescope set up. And believe me, somebody will try. Here's just using a box and a pinhole to look at the sun. And you need a big box because the sun doesn't get the image from a pinhole, it doesn't get very big. So a 5-foot box gives you a 1/2-inch image. And they're not a lot of 5-foot boxes lying around.
Is he wearing that like a hat?
Huh?
Is he wearing that like a hat?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess you got to hold it up. It's it's really a 5-sided box, I guess.
Naturally.
Yeah. Or you can look at the sun shining through the leaves of a tree. This is a pretty old photo from some years ago. The alternative is eyepiece projection, which is you use a telescope or binoculars to project an image of the sun onto a screen. Now, this goes back to the days of Galileo and Shiner. There's kind of a legend that Galileo, who suffered from poor eyesight in his old age, injured his eyes by looking at the sun through a telescope. But he didn't do it. He used projecting an image onto a piece of paper because he could trace the location of the sunspots that way. And but you don't want to aim your telescope at the sun for an excessive amount of time. It'll get hot, and you don't want to set your poor telescope on fire. But anyway, there's a view of a partially eclipsed sun, just projected by a pair of binoculars onto the hood of a travel van. And here's a little fancier way of doing it. This is a solar projection screen that's manufactured by Vixen Optical, and you can get a pretty sharp view of the sun that way. And I used the cheapest metal and glass eyepiece I can get a hold of. You don't want any plastic parts. It's nice if you don't have cemented elements in your eyepiece, because the eyepiece can heat up and damage the cement, ruin your eyepiece. Then there's also internet observing. You can, let's see, where's the, just tap. It won't tap. Okay.
Coming in. Beautiful.
There we go.
Slide that over. Actually, I think we're sharing only the PowerPoint.
Okay.
This real quick.
There we go.
Let me.
Is that showing up?
Nope, not yet. Go to the screen too.
See, there's the,
Yep. Now what we're gonna do is grab this and throw it over to the other screen real quick. Maybe. We're good. We'll get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's you can also, there's a really inexpensive way to do this. Take a small refractor and they call it the sun funnel. And yeah, you've got your eyepiece in there, but you've got a oil change funnel. And you put a piece of projector fabric on the front of that.
That's that was
And
it.
then you have a closed
So it's
system, so
okay.
nobody can stick their face anywhere in there.
Where do you get this particular fabric? What is there with it?
I bought like this,
There you go.
where there are specialty shops that sell it. It's literally for, well, I would have said a projector screen, except we don't have that anymore, it's TV here. But,
Hey, there we go.
Are we up?
Yeah, we're up. All
Okay.
right, so
Let's see, can we,
see, I think you
just scroll down?
Yeah, can use your two fingers to scroll.
Okay. Here we go. Anyways, what they call the gong,
And I use that to show people what happens to your eye, because these little melted pits all around you. There we go.
there you go. Anyway, there's a series of solar observatories around the world, and every day they put up fresh images of the sun in H alpha light. And let's see if we can
Go the other way. Like slide it up. Oh, you're angry.
Yeah, let's just grab one. There we go. And you can see quite a bit of detail if you're at the hydrogen alpha wavelength that way.
You have an H alpha, bud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, now, all right, so let's see how to get out of that.
You didn't say anything about getting out. All right, perfect. Everybody on the Zoom, can you still see the screen?
Okay.
Hopefully.
Yep, we can.
Yes.
I don't
I
see
can
any
see
messages
it.
coming, so.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, let's see, where am I? Shoot. Well, anyhow, you can also view sunspots from the SOHO spacecraft daily. And then you can do a direct observation on your own using solar filters. These are made by several different manufacturers, but the main thing they do is they reduce the intensity of visible light by a factor of 100,000 and prevent invisible ultraviolet and infrared wavelengths from reaching your eye. Although even though it's a safe solar filter, you want to be prudent and not just stare at the sun too long through your telescope. Now these are spectrophotometer traces of various solar. Let's see how we get. The top one is
Welders filter.
yeah. Okay, is that the Bader?
Bader is the third.
Welders, yeah, okay. The first is welding glass. And then a solar screen, which was made by Roger Tudhill, who unfortunately passed away about 20 years ago. So that's no longer a real product. The Bader solar safety film is a current product, still available. As is the type 2 filter from Thousand Oaks Optical, and also the black polymer filters from Thousand Oaks. Now, one thing people used to do for solar observation was expose a length of black and white film and develop it to the maximum density you could get, and then put two layers together with the emulsion side facing each other, and use that as a solar filter. And that works, but like Plus X film hasn't been made for years, and color film is definitely dangerous because color negatives are practically transparent to ultraviolet light. That's why the ice system cleans up scratches on your negatives when you scan them, because it'll detect scratches in different from simply dark areas on the picture. Of course, the next thing, of course, the good old Eclipse glasses. These were made by American Paper, Optical, and Bartlett. And to use these to shield your eyes, you just like face away from the sun, put your glasses on, and look back and find the sun, so you don't inadvertently expose your eyes to bright sunlight. And then when you take them off, you face away from the sun again, pull them off. And there you go. There is an international standard for these things that they're required to meet. However, there have been cases where there were fake solar eclipse glasses. Amazon had a big recall in 2017. And even Vanderbilt University Medical Center had a recall. You think they would know better.
Really?
But, and then this is a welder shade, 14 shade number of welding glass. It's about 2 inches by 4 inches. There is an ANSI standard, American National Standards Institute for welding glass, that has to meet. And you want to use 14 shade only. That's the densest shade you can get. The other welding glass simply isn't dense enough. And finally, the next, if you're using a telescope, is an over the objective filter. It reduces the light, keeps the light and heat out of your telescope, so you can use it with an SCT, for example, and shows you what's in the visible wavelengths. And there's a Bader filter on a small telescope. And it's actually a very good filter. It's almost neutral in color. The sun looks white when you look through it. It's relatively robust. I mean, if you accidentally drop your filter, it won't break like a glass one will. But unfortunately, you can poke your finger right through it. And they sell it as a sheet of filter, and you can make material. You can make your own cell, or you can buy ready-made some cells that are put together. This particular cell was made by AstroZap and bought from the Scope Stuff website. There you go. And then the alternative, another popular alternative is a metal coating on glass. And it's iron and chromium and other metals, nickel. And it produces an orange tinted sun, which a lot of people like. The problem with these glass filters is the glass is just plate glass, like window glass. And it hasn't been polished and figured optically. So the optical quality isn't quite as good as the safety film. You can see the image of a sunspot made through a Thousand Oaks filter on the left is a little fuzzy and blurry compared to the same spot, same telescope, just a few minutes apart from the Bader filter on the right. So if
there a big price difference between those two? Like if you're
nope.
No.
Mm-mm. No. And the other alternative, if you're using a small refractor, is the Herschel wedge, which has a prism that reflects part of the light up to the eyepiece, and the rest of it goes into the back. So the result is the little red spot on the back of the Herschel wedge will get pretty hot. So you don't want to accidentally touch that thing. Old designs, we had an opening in the back, so if you weren't careful, you could set your shirt on fire. But you do need additional filters, which you can see in the picture. This one has a neutral density of 3, which is reduces the light by 1,000, and then a Beta solar continuum filter, which is has a pass band about 10 nanometers wide at about 540 nanometers. Makes a nice green image that is very bright, very sharp. And you use those with 4-inch or smaller refractor. And then you get down to dedicated hydrogen alpha solar telescopes, such as the Meade Coronado PST, and where you have a very narrow pass band centered on the Balmer H alpha emission line. And there's a PST that has a sunshade clamped on the front, so you don't get sunlight in your eyes when you try to use the telescope, and just let the glare bother you. And there's what a solar prominences look like imaged through the telescope. Now the prominences are nowhere near as bright as the chromosphere, which is the face of the sun. So what I did for these pictures was I exposed for the prominences, and then just used GIMP to black out the center of the sun. So it just makes it a nice little image to look at. And other passband filters available there's one from Beta. They make a K-line calcium filter, which is, and they make a photographic filter that comes with, when you buy the Beta K-line filter, it comes, this material comes with it. You have to make your own cell. I don't think anybody sells an already mounted version of this because it's really unsafe to use visually. It passes 16 times the light of the safety of the film, which has a density of 5. This has a density of only 3.8. And the reason you need it is if you take the visual filter and the K-line filter in combination, you just don't get anything through the telescope that you can photograph. Anyway, the sun resembles the view with the white light filter, but the K-line, calcium K-line, does emphasize faculae and flares. But it's a photographic only, no visual observing. It's a wavelength of light you really can't see anyway with the naked eye. And finally, you can do imaging. Only your camera is at risk. And if you're forgetful and point your camera at the sun before putting the solar filter on the front, you'll get a nice burnt DSLR. And what I do, if you're using a DSLR, get one that has an articulated LCD panel, because then you can turn it to where you can look down at the screen without breaking your neck, having to look up at the scope is pointed high. Mirror lockup and a wired shutter release, reduce vibrations, and you need for any photography through a telescope. And the motofocus reduces vibrations while focusing. The telescope tends to jiggle when you turn the focusing knob with your hand. And then you can put a right angle viewer on the eyepiece, which also helps save your neck. Basically, imaging the sun is like imaging the moon. In fact, the brightness of the sun through the Bader solar filter is roughly the same as the brightness of the full moon. So there's the camera end of the scope. See what you got. There's all the goodies. The Hoodman loop is in the middle, and the shutter release on the right, and the motofocus controller on the left. Now, the PST is basically designed as a visual instrument because it has basically practically zero back focus. So you just can't just plunk a camera adapter in the eyepiece and get it to focus. Now they do have small auto guider cameras, planetary imaging cameras, and some have the image plane close enough to the front where you can reach focus with a PST. Or you can put a relay lens between your imager and the PST to reach, bring the focal plane far enough out to get focus. Or you can use afocal photography. And this is what I've done here. There you have a Celestron 2mm to 24mm eyepiece. It comes with a 42mm screw thread on the top. You pull out, you just remove the rubber eye guard. Whoops, and there it is. So there you screw onto that a filter step down ring where you would fit a 42mm filter to a 52mm lens. And then that goes, your lens goes onto the filter thread. And then the adapter goes between the lens and the camera because it happens to be a Nikon lens. And then that's a Nikon EF mount camera adapter there. And you plug it all together and it works. That's how I got the prominence image showed previously. Now, one of the hardest things to is actually finding the sun in the first place. You can't squint along the edge of your telescope, to look at the sun and find it. That'll result in tears. So what you do is you use shadows. So you just stand by your telescope, look down at the ground, and adjust the shadow until it's as small as it can be, and you're aimed at the sun. Now, a lot of telescopes are in mounts, they'll have little protrusions that cast shadows, and like can aim the shadow of the front bump on your tube ring, for example, and so that it falls on the corresponding bump on the rear tube ring, and you can get pretty close. Whoops. Now you can get sun finders to mount on your telescope, and there it just really is just two pieces of material with the holes in them. Now the sun shines through the front hole and lights up a screen on the back, and then when you're image of the sun is in the middle, you're aimed. You can generally find the sun with the camera or with the eyepiece. Now we do have eclipses coming up. Now, looking at the sun during an eclipse is not more dangerous than looking at the sun any other time. It's just that when there is an eclipse, people are inclined to do it, and people who don't know why, how to do it safely are inclined to do it. But anyway, we've got next month an annular eclipse that'll go through the western U.S. And then next year, we've got a total solar eclipse that'll come through a little further east. Now, we unfortunately are not in the path of annularity, so we're not going to see any neat photos like this. But so in Nashville, it'll look like that. It'll just like a crescent sun. And well, it's at lunchtime during the day. And finally, we'll have a total solar eclipse. Whoops. In next April. And we get to see, hopefully, if the weather permits, neat images of the sun with the naked eye while it's totally eclipsed. And I think since the sun is a little more active right now than it was back in 2017, I think we're going to see more corona this time than before. I mean, there's the path of that total eclipse. And I think Mexico would be a nice site to view from. Yeah. The weather ought to be good. Now, a little bit more of the sun is going to be covered in Nashville, but it won't be total. And so, and you just have to go a little ways west. Just, go to Arkansas or Missouri. And I think the further south you are, the better your chance for good weather. And anyway, I mean, you can see this from Nashville, but a partial solar eclipse is a little like kissing your sister. I mean, you're going through the motions, but it's not much fun. Yeah. Now we got there are more in the future. So if you miss these, you get another chance. But you're going to have to do a little globe trotting because there's not going to be any in the U.S. until 2033, and there you'll be looking at it from like Barrow, Alaska, or someplace.
What is a hybrid eclipse?
Oops, I came to the end.
What was the hybrid eclipse?
Well, a hybrid eclipse is where it's annular along part of the path, and then total on another part of the path, because the Earth is spherical, and so the shadow of the moon doesn't quite touch the Earth at some point, but being nice and round, it'll eventually go up. So, but anyway, the red ones are all annular eclipses, and the blue ones are total. You can go to Spain. You get a nice trip to Spain for one of these, and or Iceland, and then North Africa, Australia. You got 4 you can see on various days. They're pretty lucky down there. But anyway, take your chances when you find them, and so don't let the 2014 total eclipse pass you by.
Cool.
And,
Well, thank you, bud.
and that's about that.
That was a good presentation.
Do we have any questions for Bud in regards to the solar eclipse?
Yeah.
I have
Want to take a picture or anything? Okay.
Thank you, bud. So I've had experience with trying to find the sun, and I'll be darned, that thing's pain, like it's a pain to find that thing. So I won a pair of solar binoculars from an event I went to, and I went outside, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be amazing, and threw those suckers up and went. And it took me forever to find it. You'd think that like it's blasting you in the face, it would be right there. But yeah, so having those little tricks of like trying to figure out where these things are is really helpful. Couple things, solar things, like things to image the sun and look at the sun, are starting to show up in places for sale, like the solar binoculars. Like, I don't know if Facebook or Google or Amazon heard me talking to my wife about them, but now I'm getting ads for solar binoculars from Eclipse Smart, right, which is a Celestron brand. And then I also saw on a blue and yellow box store, it sells certain electronic goods. They had Eclipse Smart telescope with a built-in solar filter, and it was like under $100. And so, just trying to get people interested in this. And so if you do plan on looking at any type of eclipse, annular or total, remember that you have to have protection until totality. Once totality is there, take things off, you can look at it, but as soon as totality hits, put everything back on, right? Yeah. Or totality is gone, put everything back on. So make sure you're staying safe. Any other questions or comments today? Yeah.
I have a question. Oh,
The shadow happening.
Yeah, that works. Little pin camera. Yeah. Pinhole camera. Yeah.
That experience, it all happened out of South Carolina. There were tons of people everywhere, everyone going bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories, I'm sure I've told it here, is that I had two cameras going for the 2017 clips up here in Nashville. And I had them going. One of them was, wide field. One of them was, 300 millimeter on the sun, just to get everything as everything's moving. And I'm messing around. I'm like projecting through a Ritz cracker. I have a colander. I'm projecting images all over the place. And I snap a picture with my phone. I'm like, hey, look at this. And post it on Facebook for my friends. Like, oh, this is cool. After the eclipse is over, I'm going through my images. I'm like, oh, these are amazing. The corona, the big flares going on. I'm like, this is awesome. And so I put them in this Dropbox folder along with all my other photos. And then Celestron sent out an email saying, hey, if anybody has any good images from the eclipse, send them to us. We're putting a video together. And if we use yours, we'll send you a shirt, credit you in the video. And I'm like, I like free shirts. And so I sent them an email saying, here's my Dropbox link, feel free to use whatever. And then a month later, I got an email back and they're like, hey, we used one of your images. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And then the video comes out 2 weeks later and they use the colander shot. So all that time taking these big, beautiful pictures and have these big, awesome flares, and they use my colander.
that's funny.
I did get a shirt.
Oh.
It's the important thing, right? It's all about that. But yeah. So these are awesome events. And so historical, right? So everybody used to freak out when, oh my God, this other guy. Yeah.
Another thing is that the street lights came on where I was at dark, and the cicada bugs started to sing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy because everything kind of just starts freaking out.
I always tell people to stop and look at the horizon all the way around, sunset everywhere.
Mhm. Yeah. The other thing about 2024 with that total is that outside of the sun, everything gets dark behind it. And so there's actually a couple planets that are fairly close that'll show up in some images if you do that kind of. So, we're so focused on the actual sun itself. It's kind of a trip seeing everything else show up, different stars and things like that. So, well, good deal. It all sounds fun. So we'll go ahead and, yeah.
Can I just take a minute?
Yeah, go.
So, hey guys, you guys know I'm Steve, with BSAS and also with National Astronomy Club. You guys heard from that. And so, so we have 2 start parties this weekend. We got public on Saturday and private on Friday. Ron's, I just wanted to shout out, I'm not sure if Ron's on Zoom or not, but
Yes.
gracious, so great people out this place. And if anybody's not been down there, it's a fantastic place. beautiful skies, good drive, it's worth it. Especially if you want sending any real late night viewing or any cat spots and what have you, it's great. And then also last thing to mention on the 14th, the Adventure Science Center will be doing a whole eclipse day. And I'll be there with my rig. I've got a computer monitor rig and I'll have eclipse up on my monitors. Just love a bunch of people there in scopes. So,
Awesome. Can you post that to the group?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, and so we can kind of get that on our calendar as well, because, you know,
And
Okay.
honestly, if I have the capability, I would try to, I do have a channel I can use. That I could post live shots of the annular. I just don't know how much internet on. The state park.
good deal.
Are you going to New Mexico, yeah?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
it'll be a bottomless lake state. park.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Right. I'm still undecided if I'll be going.
That's a lot of open land. There's gonna be a bunch of people. There's a Magdalena Astronomical Society is gonna be, some of them are going to the edge. Because at the edge of an annular path, what ends up happening is you get this moon kind of rolling around the sun, you're gonna get Bailey's beads for like a long time. And so that's something cool that, you know, if you've seen everything else, that might be a fun thing to do. So there's gonna be some people looking for edge effects. There's all kind of different ways to watch. Yep,
Where there's a will, there's a way.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and finish off tonight. Thank you
Hey,
again,
Tom.
everybody, for being here.
Hey, Tom, this is
Also,
Chuck. Can
right,
you hear
like,
me?
please grab yourself a solar filter card, you know, just take a look at the sun, see what you got out there. If anything, it'll serve for the annular eclipse coming up. You can watch it kind of go halfway and then eventually come. So, all right, with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting again. Thank you, everybody.
Where you can't go is there are some of the tribal lands that are, that the Navajo are closing. Because part of, they do not watch it.